Well, today is April 19th, 2018. I just finished dinner. Dinner was just pizza and salad. I feel a lot better today. My stomach isn't doing somersaults anymore, and I'm not sitting on my porcelain throne all afternoon. Leo, however, continues to eat very little, if anything, and is spending most of his time, well, that's nothing new. He's spending most of his time lying around, but last night he slept on my leather chair, but you could tell he was distracted. I think he's probably just really nauseous all the time now. You could hear the creak of him rolling over, trying to get more comfortable, trying to find sleep, and probably having some trouble with that. So, it's been a lot of just putting your best face forward, trying to get through the day. I looked up the 5 stages of grief. They are denial and isolation is the first step, and then anger, I think, comes after that, and then bargaining. Bargaining is always very interesting because, well, I'll get to that in a second. The 4th step is depression, which is definitely probably where I am right now, although I'm getting close to the 5th step, which is sometimes called acceptance, sometimes called reintegration. But I always think it's interesting, well, not always, but now that I've read it, I think it's interesting that anger and bargaining come in straight away. Well, I think it's interesting that the denial and isolation come first. Okay, and this is why. Humans, much like a lot of other mammals, have a fight or flight instinct, where when they assess a threat, the brain tries to determine, okay, can I get out of this by being angry and looking big and possibly having to fight, or am I better off just turning tail and run? And most of the time it's actually turning tail and run. Although humans are, within the animal kingdom, pretty big predators. Not the biggest, obviously. You've got lions and tigers and bears are a little bit outside of our size class, but wolves and smaller cats and badgers and all sorts of things are littler than us, although you probably don't want to pick a fight with any of them. But yeah, the whole denial, isolation, you try and pretend that the problem isn't there, or get away from everything, get away from the problem. That's flight. And then when you realize that doesn't work, you switch over to that fight idea and you get angry. And I got angry. But bargaining is interesting because now that fight and flight both have proven they don't work against a metaphysical idea like grief, then you start to use those human attributes that set us apart from the mere animals of the world. You try and figure out a way to solve a problem that can't be solved. You look for anything that you can do to make it better, to get more time, or try and convince someone to do you a favor in the hopes that it might solve the issue. Very human things. And then none of that works. Because I can't run away from cancer, and I can't punch it out. And I can't sell it anything or buy something for it. So then you feel like you failed. Depression is that thing that comes on us when no other emotion seems to fit. It's the last one at the end of the aisle. It's the one that nobody wants. And it moves in, and it brings you down, and it eats away at you. In this case, it feels like it's eating away at me, just like the cancer is eating at Leo. And eventually, I think, you see that it's not the end. But sometimes it's the end, sometimes it's your own end. if you're getting bad news from the doctor about yourself. And even then, I wonder if it's really the end. If the end of your life is really the end of your existence, or if there's something else. I don't know if I mentioned this on on my string of vlogs, but my first cat named Mittens, because we got her when I was 7 or 8, and Mittens seemed as good a name as any for a cat. We got Mittens, and Mittens passed away in March of 2006. I'd have to check my dates on that, but it was right around the time Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. Because I remember I had been coming home and playing it, and then Mittens passed away. I was coming home from work and playing it, and found when I came home one day that Mittens wasn't alive anymore. And I don't know if I just hadn't been enjoying the game that much, but I put it down. I was in a really bad place when Mittens passed away. She was my first pet. I didn't know how to live without her. And so I just remember doing nothing sometimes, sitting there, laying there, thinking about her, crying a lot. 2006, I would have been 25. I cried a lot for a 25-year-old guy who just lost a cat. But she was something special. And I just sort of floated around, and my friends were kind and helped me out. And having friends at a time like this is super important. I've come to realize that. I don't want to burden them. I don't want to make all of my suffering become their suffering, because I don't want anyone else to feel the way I feel right now. But just saying, hey, I'm sorry if I'm down in the dumps, but this is why. A lot of them are just understanding. They won't go out of their way, do a whole bunch of stuff for you, but they'll do the little things that matter. And that makes a big deal, because the whole goal is to get back to the point where you're just doing everything that you usually do. And it's never going to be exactly the same. I've lived with that pain, the pain of losing 2 older cats, and the pain of losing 2 good friends way before their times. But you get back to a place where you can smile again, and you can laugh again, and you can enjoy things again without feeling guilty that you are trying to find some enjoyment in the midst of your own despair. And that's that real final acceptance. I feel like acceptance is a terrible way of putting it. The reintegration, getting back into the world. And even if it's the end of your life, you get back into the world and you connect with the people that you've always had connections with. And sometimes you might even get lucky and make connections with new people. And then you just sort of do what you need to. For me, it's going to be going back to work and doing my job and finding joy in playing a video game and going on walks and cherishing memories. Well, it's been 8 minutes. I think I'm going to make myself super sad if I keep thinking about this. Leo is currently just sleeping under a bed right now, but he's in a pretty bad way. I don't know if we're going to have him another whole week. We'll see. Anyway, been Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.